Your phone calls, 412-575-2600 on the Borders and Borders hotline. Also taking your tweets at Josh Taylor HD. Josh Taylor here. Gene Collier joins me in studio. We'll start in Twitter. Jason says, someone tell Neil Huntington that they don't give out trophies for being in contention at the trade deadline. That's pretty much what you're hoping for at the trade deadline. I don't know what better to tell you, because they don't give out World Series trophies either at the trade deadline. I don't know if you're saying that that's something that's all they aspire to do, but not really a full descriptive way of disclosing that. I think I know what Jason's getting at. Just really didn't describe it that well. But, Gene, I'll ask you this question. When you're talking about this team, whom we know is not on the same level of talent as the Cubs, whom we know does not have the same perpetual ability to churn out talent or churn out talented teams like the Cardinals do, when you know those things going in, does having that kind of spirit of if they can make contention at the trade deadline, does that seem like enough, or does that seem unrealistic to you?
Well, I think every year is different, Josh.
I guess that's a good way to put it.
You know, this year it didn't work out for them. But again, the X factor there was the Cubs. Had the Cubs continued to struggle or had another key injury, and the NL Central was still just a glob of teams within 2 games of each other, the Pirates, I think, would have taken a different approach at the trade deadline. But I think it's partly, as I said before, in recognition of what the Cubs are, and they're not going to be caught. It's
also a reflection, if we want to stick with the theme here, based on last night's game, it's also a reflection of the records against bad teams. I mean, they were 1-5 against Cincinnati before this series, and those 2 series happened in the earlier part of the season within the first couple months. So they lost those bad games early in the going, and then they lost 3 in a row to San Francisco, came here and got swept, and they go out to San Francisco and have a rough go there. I think they lose 2 out of 3. So there's a really bad element as far as not being able to tie down the games that should have been tied down, and I think that leads to what they're dealing with now. If you look through the standings in the NL Central, the higher the team, the better the record. The lower the team, the worse the record. It's a really odd dynamic to look at. But let's go to the phone lines, 412-575-2600. Let's go to Bill in Overbrook. Bill, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hey, guys. Good evening.
Thanks for calling.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on this. I wanted to see what Gene would say, but you just talked about how the Pirates played on to the lower teams. They lose to them, but it happens all the time. The Steelers have done it quite often through the years. Even the Penguins last year did it. Do you think the athletes get something in their head to think, oh, we can beat these guys, and then they go out and they get their butts whipped? You know, is it something mental, do you think? But I want to hear what Gene has to say about this. Thanks a lot.
Well, to Bill's point, there is a level in every sport. You always hear there any given Sunday in the NFL. In the NHL, you will see some teams that might kind of coast a bit against some lesser teams and probably get outskated and lose a game or 2. In baseball, you could probably make that case for a lot of different teams. It's a 162-game season, will tell you, a lot of opportunities to lose games. But Gene, to his question, I mean, where do you draw the line between, you know, they're not really focusing enough or trying as hard to win or just assuming things, or they're just getting beaten by other competition?
Yeah, well, I think it varies from sport to sport. I think baseball's, you know, such a difficult game that, you know, when the game starts, you know, anybody can beat anybody. And I know they say that in the other sports, but it's not to the degree that it is in baseball. The game is so challenging. Some nights you're going to be able to hit the ball, and some nights you're not going to be able to hit the ball. And you know, a lot of different eventualities are in play. But having said that, this notion of losing to lesser teams, you know, lesser teams are not going to go winless through the course of a season. They're going to beat somebody.
Very true.
So, I mean, that part bothers me, but not to the level that it bothers a lot of fans. What bothers me more about these particular Pirates is the way they play at home. Up until the last homestand, when they were 6-1, they had 8 or 9 homestands to that point, and really all of them were unsuccessful. They had 1 or 2 where they were one. I think they went 3-2, Josh, and one they went 4-2. But other than that, they are not a good home team. And unless you're a really good and even dominant home team, you're going nowhere over the course of a baseball season, and that's where the Pirates are going.
And if you want to go by the trends from the past couple of seasons, there's a couple things this team has done this year or hasn't done this year that they had done in previous years. There were certain things that were kind of checked off, if you want to look at the checklist. And one of the things in the past couple of years was they were a good enough team at home. Right. And that's been my theory for a while. If you win 60 to 65% of your games at home and you go 500 on the road, you're going to be in playoff contention. Really, and the numbers tell you that every year. And if you don't do that, if you can't win games at home, it's going to be really hard to try to put together that kind of resume that puts you A, in playoff contention, or B, makes you a division contender. So you got a good point there as far as not being able to win games at home. And it doesn't help when you got 2 more games against the Reds, you got 3 more with San Diego here, and then Detroit comes to town, and they're one of the lower bottom-feeding teams in the American League. So you got more games at home against teams you should probably beat. And right now, it looks more ominous than it does maybe an opportunity. Let's go to Rich in Altoona. Rich, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking my call. It's really sad. You got the 6 division leaders all went out and made improvements for their run for the playoffs. You look at the 2 top teams of the wild cards in each league, they went out and made improvements for the playoff run. Pirates went out and got a 40-year-old reliever. They traded Tony Watson away for 2 single-A players. Isn't it about time that people just throw their arms up and say, you know what, this is it? I mean, I am so sick and tired of the management of this organization just wanting to lead the league in prospects. It's not about prospects. It's about major league talent. I'm sorry, but they just don't have any as far as I'm concerned. And if I'm McCutcheon after the season, I say, look, forget the option. Just trade me because it's painfully obvious they don't want to win. And I'm not talking about the players on the team. I'm talking about management.
Well, thanks for the call. 2 things. 1, you pointed out the fact that all the division leaders and the 2 wildcard teams made trades at the deadline. I'd be more surprised if they didn't, because those are the teams that are supposed to. The teams that are actually in contention, leading their division, leading the wildcard race at the deadline, they're supposed to upgrade. That's what they're expected to do, because they're expected to try to carry it forward and get into the playoffs or have a stronger roster for the playoffs. That's not the part that surprises me. The part that surprises me is not even that the Pirates didn't make an aggressive move to buy, because here's the problem. When you talk about trades, you have to deal from a position of strength in order to correct a position of weakness. The problem for me with this team, you point out all the teams that lead divisions and lead the wild card. The problem is those teams didn't have many holes to fix. We talked about Chicago needing pitching. LA needed pitching. Clayton Kershaw's on the DL, so they needed another pitcher. The Yankees have had injury issues with pitching, so they needed pitching. But those were the only holes they needed to fill. The Pirates had holes in the starting rotation. They had holes in the bullpen. They have holes at third base. Gregory Polanco's hurt, so they had a hole in the outfield. I don't think, even if they would have tried to make a move, Gene, I don't know if they could have filled all the holes that they needed to fill like the other teams who only had maybe 1 or 2 holes to fill. But that's just my take on it.
Well, I agree with most of that. As for the premise of the call, that this is all on management, I'm usually inclined to agree with that. But I mean, the Pirates had, the Pirates were kind of doomed from the start of this without Gong and with Marte gone for 80 games. I mean, you've taken really 40% of your offense away. McCutcheon was terrible for the first 2 months. I mean, that's a lot to overcome.
All right, we'll go back to the phone lines here, but one more question from Kenny. This is Steelers related, Gene. Who do you think will be the Steelers kick returner? Interesting question.
Wow. I don't know.
There's a wide swath of guys. Honestly,
I can only think of people. I hope it's not.
One guy I hope it will get a shot at it is Niall Davis. I'll put his name in the hat now. I think Niall Davis should get a shot at it. Hopefully he gets a chance to do it, because when he's had opportunities, he's actually proven to be pretty good. Actually, we'll take a break here. We'll come back. We'll take some more phone calls, so stick around.